Hi guys, sorry for the inconvenience caused. So let me continue with where I left. So we were talking about these 30 days being very crucial from the point of view of productivity and maintaining calm and not becoming anxious. Because most of the people who prepare for CAT are actually devoting most of their time for preparation in these last 30 days. So we need to keep reminding ourselves that whatever we are going to learn in these last 30 days, the retention is going to be the highest. And with that mindset, uh, practice a variety of questions and making sure that we explore the maximum variety of questions which can come in actual CAT exam, so that you take less time to prepare for those and solve those questions, so that you find more time for other novel questions. And for all of this, time management becomes very crucial, because in these 30 days, let's say if you're devoting 5 hours daily and you have 30 days, so essentially you just have 150 hours, and every hour is going to count a lot in these the last duration. So you need to make sure that you get maximum productivity out of every hour that is put into the preparation. Now, as you all know, CAT is less about knowledge gaining and more about speed and accuracy. Because if given enough time, everyone will be able to solve most of the questions. So it's essentially the challenge of solving these questions within the time constraint. And you need to make sure that you keep on improving your speed and accuracy in different sections. Now, where to focus on speed and where to focus on accuracy is the question. Now, you need to focus on speed in your strong areas. Your strong areas are those where you have a conceptual clarity and you are able to solve the questions. The concern could be that you're right now taking more time to solve those questions. So as you keep on practicing, more questions of the same variety, you'll improve your speed. Now, with an improved speed, what will happen is, if a similar question comes in CAT exam, you'll take less time to prepare that question and you'll have more time for other questions. Now, coming to your weaker areas, so your weaker areas are those where you have some conceptual clarity, but because you lack a solid foundation, you make silly mistakes. And because of those silly mistakes, you tend to attempt those questions but attempt it wrongly. So it's more about accuracy. So for those weak areas, you need to practice questions with a focus on accuracy. Now once you focus on accuracy and you prepare these weak areas, this will become your strong areas, and once they become your strong areas, then you need to focus on speed. Now as the time is very less, so this needs to be done in a very efficient way and very effective way, and you need to make sure that every hour counts, as I told previously. So essentially, these are the two dimensions of CAT, and if a little improvement also can be made in either of these two dimensions, it can make a lot of difference. Even if you are able to solve an additional question in CAT, it can change your percentile to a very large extent and can change your whole future as well. So focus on these two dimensions. Next, why you need to give your 100% if you're appearing for CAT. This is because MBA is like early on we started getting a lot of engineers, so the value of engineering has degraded now. So the same thing is now happening with MBA as well, as more and more MBA colleges are sprouting. So it only makes sense to do your MBA from one of the top 30 B schools. Otherwise you won't get the ROI that you expect to get, because cost of MBA is very high in most of these colleges. So it should make economic sense to go for an MBA. So let's say you prepared a lot for CAT exam and you could not go, you could not proceed to any of the top MBA college. The right way about it should be you appear next year. Don't compromise with the MBA college, but because it's going to impact the next 30 to 40 years of your life. And MBA is also a lot about networking, the people that you're going to meet during your college time. And these people are going to get into corporate jobs, going to get into big corporate houses as well as startups. And this networking is going to help you create relations going forward when you take higher positions in corporate sector. So this networking also depends on the MBA college that you're getting into. So you should make it a point that you don't get into a mediocre MBA college, even if it's taking more years, even if it's taking more time, even if you have to shift from full-time MBA to an executive MBA, you do that, but don't compromise on your MBA college. And that is why for these next 30 days, you need to give your 100%, because this exam only comes once every year, and you have this particular time to make an impact. Now, next question comes how to approach mocks for the next 30 days. So essentially, even if you are started preparing for CAT very early on, initially naturally tend to focus on knowledge gaining and getting a hold of all the variety of concepts that appear in CAT. And this last time duration is naturally you focus on giving more and more, taking more and more mock tests, full length or topic tests. But what is the way of approaching this? So a very big mistake that a lot of aspirants make is that they focus on improving their scores even in mock exams. So when this tendency comes, what mistake starts getting happened is that because of this focus on marks, you tend to attempt more questions in which you are already comfortable, and your weaker areas become more and become further weak because you are neglecting those questions when you are trying to appear for full length mock tests. So keep it in mind that these mock tests are essentially just for practice, and you need to make sure that you are practicing all varieties of questions. Don't focus on marks at this point of time, but keep 5 last mock tests for to create a simulation of the actual CAT exam and to be able to score to the maximum of your potential. So in these last 5 mock tests as well, the first mock will be will give you a reality check of where you're standing and what needs to be done going forward, and the coming 4 mock tests will improve this aspect of your preparation, how to score maximum marks in these 3 hours. But before that, all the mocks should be taken with a sense of that you're going to practice more and more questions and don't focus on scoring maximum marks. Then coming to individual sections, starting with quant. Now, what should be the quant strategy for the next 30 days? Now, what I would suggest is don't now go with video lectures, watching video lectures and gaining knowledge, as I told previously as well. Start practicing now and start practicing smartly. So what I mean by that is start practicing different varieties of questions. And after you solve these questions, so whatever test series or whatever package that you have taken, or whatever route you have adopted, whether through books or through coaching, but make sure that after you practice these questions, you see the explanations right then and there. Because when you invest time into practicing something, you've taken time to do this, and when the explanations are seen right then and there, it gets ingrained for a more sustainable basis as compared to when you're just reading concepts and when you're just going through gaining more and more knowledge. So this opposite approach is actually more effective than the previous one. So first practice and then see explanations, and then find out where you lagged. Some of the questions you won't be able to solve, and some of the questions you'll be making silly mistakes. So this assessment will give you insights which will remain with you going forward and will retain for a more sustainable basis. So adopt this very simple approach. Wherever you are standing in quant, you may be very comfortable with quant, you may be very weak with quant. So if you're very weak with quant, start with those topics where you're a little bit comfortable. Don't start with those topics where you're already comfortable or you're not at all comfortable, because in these last 30 days, you can only make an impact in those areas which are either weak or a little bit where you're comfortable. And you need to avoid those concepts now where you are absolutely very uncomfortable. So let's say if a candidate, if he or she is uncomfortable with permutation combination to the extent that he or she is not even able to solve a simple question, don't focus on that particular topic now, because anyways 1 or 2 questions are going to come in that particular topic, and the time that it will require for you to be comfortable with will suck a lot of time, and which if given for other topics would have made a lot of difference. So just make it a point to do this. Now coming to verbal strategy. So we've seen in verbal that more and more focus is now given to reading comprehensions, and some of the questions also come related to sentence correction or sentence extension, that after a paragraph what should be the next sentence that naturally should appear after that. Now for both these sections, it's actually newspaper reading which is going to help you the maximum, because the problem with reading comprehensions is that uh, no question is unapproachable. What will happen is, out of these four options, two options you'll be able to eliminate very conveniently, and out of the rest two options you'll get confused, and this confusion is because of your comprehension skills. So you'll find that both of these options look correct, and you take a gamble, and a lot of the times you are inaccurate. And that is why it is also seen that in verbal section, and especially RC section, the accuracy is minimum. Now when you read newspaper, and especially editorial section, you develop this ability intuitively, naturally. So after reading a lot of newspapers on a daily basis, when you go and appear for actual CAT exam, you'll feel it very natural to go through those big paragraphs and still be able to retain the understanding of that paragraph to be able to solve the corresponding question. Now this is about newspaper. And what about practice? So make sure that you practice 10 RCs daily. So newspaper reading and practicing RCs, newspaper reading, practicing RCs, and you'll see a definite improvement in your performance on a daily basis if you're practicing daily, and that is definitely going to come. So make it a point to do this. Apart from that, also make sure that you practice these sentence correction and extension questions as well. If you take care of these two aspects and focus on these two aspects, then it will give you maximum return. There is a principle called 80-20 principle. So that principle applies here as well. So you'll get 80% of return from 20% of efforts. And this 20% of efforts actually needs to be channelized in the right direction. And for verbal section, it is about practicing more and more RCs and side by side reading newspapers. Now coming to next section, LR. So there are two strategies. One is for practicing and one is for actual exam. So when it comes to practice, it is seen that the number of patterns that come under LR section are limited in number. The questions can either be related to hierarchy based or circular problem. So these have the conceptual basis of most of these patterns are quite similar, although there might be a little bit of tinkering here and there. So you need to make sure that you, before CAT exam, you have already practiced all these patterns, and whatever whatever package or whatever route you're adopting to prepare, uh, this needs to be made sure. So so when you appear for actual exam, you'll see that similar concepts are coming, and if you already have practiced a similar question, you'll be able to solve it more effectively. And in LR, when it is about the actual exam, the strategy should be crack or leave, because what happens in LR is sometimes it takes a lot of time to crack that particular pattern which is there in LR, and if you devote more time into it, it's going to suck a lot of your time, and it's going to be disastrous for you. Your percentile in LR will anyway suffer, and because of lack of time that you can devote to other sections, your overall percentile will also suffer. So whenever you approach an LR based question in actual CAT exam, just devote it 30 to 40 seconds initially, and assess whether you'll be able to solve it very quickly. If you're not able to solve it, then keep it to the to the to the time remaining in the end, if and there is. So you can also adopt this strategy that you appear for quant and verbal and DI sections initially, and focus on LR towards the end, because your efficiency is also going to increase in LR. If so whatever section you pick, in the end your efficiency always becomes maximum because of time constraint. So with LR, this should be the approach if it appeals to you. Then coming to DI strategy. So DI, out of all these sections, it is the DI section which is mostly about speed. DI questions can again be solved by most of the people, most of the aspirants, whether from engineering background or non-engineering background, if given enough time. There's not a lot of complexity involved in calculations, but it's just that how quickly are you able to solve these questions. So you need to become good with calculations orally. So whenever you're practicing DI questions, try to make sure that some of the questions where you can solve it orally, you do that, because it's going to help you in actual CAT exam. You can take a sheet of paper for any question and can solve it, but having an oral basis will make things easier for you and will improve your score in DI. It will improve your speed in DI, and again, because of improved speed, you will be able to spend more time in other sections. So this should be done, and it should be made sure that you devote around 1.5 hours to 2 hours daily for DI section. Again, in DI section, the nature of questions are limited in nature, so it will be ratio based, it will be year on year comparison. So it's the pattern is limited, and if you remain very focused and you segment these patterns and practice all these sections, then you'll be very comfortable with DI section. uh, Now moving to what should be, so essentially 4 weeks are left. So what should be your weekly strategy? Now I'm going to discuss week 1 strategy that starts from now, and week 4 strategy that is the last week before CAT. And in the middle, I'm going to give you flexibility to decide on your own on the basis of the insights that I've shared previously, and on the basis of wherever you are currently standing. Now, starting with week 1 strategy, first we talk about verbal. So make sure that you read newspapers daily for 2 hours, preferably Economic Times. Why? Because you're going for an MBA. Economic Times is a business newspaper, and even after joining an MBA college, either you'll be recommended to read Economic Times or Mint, which are both business newspapers. So it's best that you start making it a practice from now on itself. Also, it will help you in interviews because you'll be getting more and more knowledge from these newspapers. And even in these newspapers, especially focus on editorial sections, because these are the most closely related to the comprehensions that come in the exam. And if you develop an intuitive ability of going through these editorial sections and getting a grasp of what the writer or the columnist wants to say, then it will be an easy ride for you in both these areas of verbal, either RCs or sentence continuation. Now, when it comes to LR, as I've already discussed, there are limited number of patterns that come in LR. So with continuous practice, start preparing LR mind maps. Just like there is daughter, mother and grandmother, this sort of question also comes a lot in LR. So this relationship based questions, you'll see that there is a defined pattern and defined trick to solve these questions. You need to identify those on your own, because you also need to make sure that you are not very formulaic. If this is done by a coaching institute or by a book, these tricks, if shared by these coaching institutes or books, will make it very formulaic. And the negative aspect of this will be that in the exam, if there's even a slight tinkering or slight variation in the question, you won't be able to solve it, and there is definitely going to be some variation in the question. So if you invest your own mind into preparing these mind maps, then you'll have that flexibility to adapt it to the change in question that comes in actual CAT exam. So make sure that you do this on your own and not rely on given formulas, especially when it relates to LR. Again, this makes a lot of impact, because if you try to apply that particular formula in actual exam, you devote more and more time into a particular question, and when you are not able to solve it, sometimes people take it to their ego and say that no, I'm definitely going to solve this, and because of that it becomes a disaster. So make sure that this doesn't happen in your case. And you know if you talk about when we talk about any of these 4 sections, you need to keep in mind that you just need to be above average in all these sections and not an expert in any of the sections. CAT questions are not very tough. So you need to just be comfortable enough to be able to solve CAT level questions. Some of the test series come out with very hard questions, which might motivate the already already people who are already very good at solving CAT questions, who are in the range of 99.5 percentile and above, but it might demoralize the other people. So just make sure that you're above average in all the topics, and that will do the trick for you. Now, if you haven't started attempting any full length tests till now, you should do it because it's very high time. So again, as I told previously, CAT is most about practice, and you need to make sure that you go over your inertia and start practicing as much as you can, and leave those topics now in which you're not at all comfortable. Because if you start devoting your time on those topics and those concepts, then it will take a lot of your time and will not give the corresponding return. So from now on, either focus on those topics in which you are already comfortable, already strong, or you focus on those in which you are relatively weaker and you can improve in, let's say, in a week or two. And finally, solidify your weak concepts in quant section by watching videos and going through short notes. These, again, as I shared previously, these weak concepts should be those where you have some sort of conceptual understanding and you need more clarity. Here, you might get return for investing time during this crucial period. Then coming to last week's strategy before CAT exam. Now this last week should be, first of all, devoid of any pressure. Now we have done a lot. You've prepared as much as you can. And essentially, again, in this last week, it's about practice. And even when it comes to practice, just practice full length tests. You need to get a hang of actual those 3-hour exam conditions. So make sure that you practice at least 2 full length tests every day in this last 1 week. So you'll be solving, let's say, in the range of 12 to 14 mock tests, full length mock tests. Even if you're not able to devote a lot of time in these last 20, in these coming 21 days, if you just practice those 12 to 14 full length tests in the last week, it's also going to give a lot of impact, going to create a lot of impact, because you'll be very comfortable with the exam conditions, very comfortable with time management. Your speed will increase, your accuracy will increase, because after solving those 12 to 14 full length tests, it is very likely that a lot of questions might be repeated in the actual CAT exam as well. So this strategy for last week should be adopted with an aim of improving your speed and accuracy and to gain confidence before the actual exam. Now, this is essentially what I wanted to share with you. So I wanted to share with you specifically strategies related to specific sections, how to overall motivate yourself for these last 30 days, and then a timely strategy, time-based strategy as well, in which I've shared with you first week and last week strategy. Now, just briefly mentioning the program that we are also running for CAT. So right now we are running CAT crash course for CAT 2017, although just a month is left, and I would not very heavily recommend this program for most of the candidates if they haven't yet started with their preparation. But if you've already done a little bit of your preparation, then this will be a very good course for you if you haven't joined any other program. And this will we have designed the program in such a way that all the question varieties are covered. And for next year, we have also already launched CAT 1 year comprehensive program, in which a step-by-step process will be followed for the next 1 year, so that at least, even if you're not well prepared for now, you'll be able to definitely. So if you're interested in these programs, you can go to our website and go to the courses page. So thank you for taking out your valuable time to attend this webinar. I know it's a very crucial time for you. Only a month is left, and there has been hiccup as well in terms of initially letting you see the webinar. But I wish you all the best for your MBA exams. And let me take some of the doubts that have been shared with me, and let's see if I can, address some of the questions which are common in nature. Hello, everyone. So, Pratyush Panda has shared with us what number of attempts should be considered fair. Um, so this varies with different sections. So with quant, it should be, the idea should be that you're attempting 85% of the questions with at least 75% accuracy. With verbal, if you get comfortable with RC section and sentence correction section, then you can go up to again 80 to 90% of attempts, and again with an accuracy of, let's say, 65 to 70%, because in verbal the accuracy is a little bit low as compared to quant section. When it comes to LR and DI, don't have a very fixed mindset of being able to attempt these many questions. It might vary according to the difficulty of these two sections. For the last couple of years, the difficulty has increased. So don't have a very formulaic approach in these sections. Then the next question is shared by Rathi Navel Vikram. He's asking, from now on, is it necessary to refresh the topics we have learned, or is it enough that we attend mocks on a regular basis? Now, attempting mocks on a regular basis is the most, and that should be, kept in mind. When it comes to refreshing the topics, so so the topics into three categories: the topics where you're already very comfortable, then there are topics in which you have a little bit of understanding, but we might consider it as weak areas, and then there are topics in which you are not at all comfortable. So refreshing the topics should be focused on those concepts in which you are relatively weak, and the topics in which you're not at all comfortable should be left out for now, because it's not going to give you as much return and time is very less. So just focus on your strong areas and weak areas going forward. Then Saurabh Gupta asks that he has passed out from BTech recently. I'm interested about the study material books not going to appear in this attempt. Saurabh, I think if you're appearing for next year, then probably from the Ecovation team, someone is going to share with you the group code that will be following guide you for the next year as well, and there we can take on this doubt. Then the next question by Raj Kumar is how to tackle DI/LR keeping difficulty level from past 2 years. So as you've correctly mentioned, the difficulty level has increased in these last 2 years, but essentially it's, if you can practice similar variety of questions before going to actual CAT exam with a lot of dedication and sincerity, then you'll be good to go in the actual CAT exam as well. So make sure that either you're following updated books which have incorporated these questions, or you're following a program which keeps on updating itself every year on the basis of questions that have appeared in CAT. So essentially, if you get a hang of these questions before exam, then you'll be good to go. Hamza Poonawala asks, I've learned shortcuts for quant, but when I attempt a mock, I cannot apply it. So this problem actually is faced by a lot of candidates, because so what essentially happens in this case is, so again, the point that I shared with regard to LR as well. So when the approach becomes very formulaic, then the shortcut will is only going to help you in the exact same question, if the exact same question appears, and even if there's a little bit of tinkering, you won't even know that you can apply the same formula there as well. So just make sure that so let's say the formula, you tried applying it in a particular question but you were not able to do so, then see the explanation. It's mocks are not about scoring maximum marks, it's about learning. Even if you're not able to solve it, go to the explanation, see the explanation in a detailed manner, and you'll be able to then find out whether you could have applied this concept, this formula there or not. And in future, you'll be able to do it. So this practice, if followed for a lot of variety of questions, you will then develop a natural ability to solve the questions in a variety of topics under quant section. Then Prerna Lal asks, what is the chance of scoring around 100 percentile if one is scoring around 70 to 80 percentile? Let me tell you honestly, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because CAT exam is very competitive. So if you're 70 to 80 percentile, I would say that you can go till 90 to 95 percentile with ease, because this difference can be achieved with the focus on whatever I've discussed, improving your speed, improving your accuracy. These are the two metrics. But when we talk about people who are above 98 plus percentile, so basically when I say that you'll be able to score 100 percentile, what I'm essentially saying is all those people who are actually now scoring percentile, you are replacing them. So it's very difficult for them to those 99 plus percentilers to reduce to below 90 percentile. So the that place is already very crowded, and so it's very difficult to do that. But you can definitely get around 95 percentile, and that will you into one of the top 30 MBA schools. uh, then Prashasti Nair asks, is attempting more the coming 1 month? Mm, it is actually. So, but make sure that you're practicing 5 hours daily. If you practice for more than 100 hours before CAT, I'm like guaranteeing you that you'll be able to do very well in actual CAT exam. This is something that a lot of people lack in when it comes to strategy. Um, if more and more people are made aware of this fact that it's essentially the practice, and that is through the mocks, that you can score the maximum marks, then it will make a lot of difference. Then the next question by Rajkumar is, what should be the strategy for VARC? I'm taking quite longer time to solving RC. How to maximize score in VARC? I think I've already covered both the portions in the PPT. So probably whatever I've shared, try implementing those strategies, and you'll see a definite improvement. Saurabh Kumar asks how to maximize score in RC in remaining time. Again, for RC, the strategy that I have followed before appearing for CAT, and which I have recommended to a lot of candidates till now, is that just focus on newspaper reading. If you're continuously reading newspaper, but that should also be done with a focus. Just skimming through newspaper will not do the trick. You need to make sure that whatever editorial section or whatever article that you're reading, after reading that article, you can communicate all the aspects that is covered in that article to your friends and your acquaintances. If you're able to do that, then RC is again a short article, and the questions are based on that article as well. So you'll be good to go. Abhay Pratap Singh asks, in your CAT test series, there is no solution. So, Veena asks how to maximize the score in DI and para jumbles. Now, again, in DI section, it's very important that you focus on continuous practice and improve your speed. If you're focusing on speed, so it's less about accuracy and more about speed. Whenever you're practicing, if you have the mindset that you are focusing on DI with regard to speed, then you will be able to solve it. So I'm taking these many questions for now. Some of the questions, again, most of the questions relate to the strategy that should be followed, or you lie in this percentile and whether you'll be able to go to a higher percentile, or different section strategy. And I think I have already discussed most of the aspects in my PPT, and so the link for the PPT will remain the same. So you can always go and access the PPT whenever you want to again. But I would recommend that as the time is less, so as soon as you go out of this webinar, just keep in mind that you need to practice as much as you can, and keep that motto in mind: smart practice with a sense of purpose. And every word in that motto is very important. If you remain dedicated, if you remain focused, you'll be definitely, you're going to do well in the exam. So otherwise, we also are running a group on Ecovation, which is called Ecovation Webinar. You can remain connected with me there, and you can ask your doubts. I'll also try to go through some specific doubts which are mentioned here and discuss it there, so that you can take benefit of it, and it is documented so that anyone can come back and see the suggestions that I've shared. So with this, I thank you all for uh, devoting your valuable time to attend this webinar, and I hope that somewhere it helps you in improving your score in CAT exam and get into a top MBA college, and change your life for good for the next 30 to 40 years. Thanks a lot.